There is a part of you that does not want you to succeed. Not your laziness, not your circumstances, not bad luck. Something deeper, something hidden, something that activates precisely at the moment everything starts going well. You get close to your goal, and then you stop. You find someone good, and then you push them away. You build something real, and then you destroy it, and you don't know why. Carl Jung spent decades studying this pattern, and what he found was not comforting. He called it the shadow, the part of the self that operates in darkness, the part you buried so deeply you forgot it existed. And according to Jung, this hidden part of you is not your enemy. It is the most misunderstood force inside you. In this video, you will discover why a part of you sabotages everything good in your life, and what Carl Jung believed was the only way to stop it. What happens in the fifth part of this video is the thing most people never realize until it is too late. Stay until the end, because Jung's answer to self-sabotage might be the most important truth you will ever hear about yourself. 1. The shadow is not your weakness, it is your buried self. Jung believed that from a very early age, we learn which parts of ourselves are acceptable, which emotions are allowed, which desires are permitted, which aspects of our personality make others comfortable, and everything that doesn't fit, the anger, the ambition, the vulnerability, the darkness, the need, gets pushed down, not destroyed, just hidden. Jung called this the shadow, not because it is evil, but because it lives where the light doesn't reach. And here is what most people don't understand. The shadow is not made only of darkness. It also contains the parts of you that were too bright for those around you. Your creativity they called childish. Your sensitivity they called weakness. Your passion they called arrogance. All of it, the dark and the light, got buried together. And the longer it stays buried, the more power it gains, because what you refuse to face doesn't disappear. It waits. 2. Why good things trigger the shadow. Here is the pattern that destroys lives silently. Things are going well, better than they have in a long time. A relationship is deepening. A project is succeeding. A version of your life you always wanted is finally becoming real. And then, something shifts. You start arguments that don't need to happen. You make decisions that make no rational sense. You pull back from the very thing you worked so hard to reach. Jung called this the return of the repressed. Because when life gets good, when you start to receive love, success, or recognition, the shadow stirs. It carries the beliefs you absorbed before you could question them. That you don't deserve this. That happiness never lasts for people like you. That something this good will eventually be taken away, so better destroy it yourself first. These are not logical thoughts. They don't arrive as words. They arrive as feelings, as impulses, as behavior that confuses even you. And they always strike at the moment you can least afford them. 3. The sabotage you don't recognize as sabotage. This is the part that makes the shadow so dangerous. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't say, I am going to ruin this for you. It whispers in the language of logic. Maybe this relationship is moving too fast. Maybe I don't really deserve this promotion. Maybe I should wait until I'm more ready. Maybe things were simpler before. These thoughts feel reasonable. They feel like self-awareness. They feel like caution. But they are the shadows speaking in a voice that sounds like your own wisdom. Jung wrote that the most dangerous lies are the ones that feel like truth. And the shadow is fluent in your own language. It knows your fears. It knows your wounds. It knows exactly which words will sound convincing enough to stop you. The relationship ends before it could hurt you. The opportunity disappears before you could fail at it. The dream stays a dream, safely unreachable. And the shadow retreats, satisfied, until the next time something good appears. 4. The wound underneath the sabotage. Jung believed that self-sabotage is never random. It always traces back to something specific, a moment, a message, a person who, without meaning to, that you were not safe to want. Things. Maybe success in your family created distance, not celebration. Maybe vulnerability was met with ridicule, not understanding. Maybe love always came with conditions you couldn't fully meet. So you learned unconsciously, deeply, that having good things is dangerous, that being seen is risky, that wanting more is setting yourself up for pain. And the shadow absorbed these lessons completely. Now, decades later, you are no longer in that situation. The people are different. The circumstances are different. You are different. But the shadow doesn't know that. It is still protecting you from a threat that no longer exists. Still following rules that were written for a version of you that needed them then, but doesn't need them now. 5. Why you repeat the same pattern across different lives. This is the part Jung considered most devastating, because the shadow doesn't only affect one area. It follows you. You leave one relationship and build the same dynamic in the next one. You walk away from one career and recreate the same ceiling in the new one. You move to a new city, meet new people, start fresh, and somehow, mysteriously, end up in the same place. Because you didn't take a new life. You took yourself, and the shadow came with you. Jung wrote, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." This is what he meant. The pattern isn't bad luck. The pattern isn't the universe working against you. The pattern is the shadow, running the same program it has always run, because no one has ever gone in to update it. 6. What happens when the shadow wins completely? Jung studied patients who had let the shadow rule for too long, and the picture was always the same. A life half-lived, relationships that never quite reached intimacy, careers that never quite reached potential, dreams that stayed just close enough to be painful but never close enough to be real, and a deep, unnameable feeling of being watched, of something waiting, of being at war with yourself without knowing who the enemy is, because the shadow doesn't want to destroy you. It wants to protect you. But protection that prevents you from living is its own kind of destruction. The tragedy Jung saw most often was not people who failed dramatically. It was people who simply never started, never let go, never allowed life to be as good as it could have been, because something inside decided, long before they had the words to protest, that it wasn't safe. 7. How to stop sabotaging yourself. Jung's only real answer. Jung did not believe in willpower as the solution. He believed that forcing the shadow down harder only makes it stronger. The only path forward is integration, not fighting the shadow, not destroying it, but turning toward it, looking at it, understanding what it carries and why. Here is how to begin. 1. Name what you are afraid to want. Write it down. Say it out loud. The things you want most are usually the things your shadow is most determined to protect you from having. 2. Notice the moment before the sabotage. There is always a moment, a feeling of discomfort just as something good arrives. Learn to recognize it. That discomfort is the shadow waking up. 3. Ask what the sabotage is trying to protect. Not to excuse the behavior, but to understand the wound underneath it. The shadow is always trying to prevent a pain you once felt. Find the original pain. 4. Stop calling yourself broken. The shadow is not evidence of your failure. It is evidence of your survival. At some point, these patterns kept you safe. They are not your enemy. They are outdated protection. 5. Choose expansion over safety. Every time you stay in a good relationship instead of leaving for no reason, you are defeating the shadow. Every time you keep going instead of stopping at the edge of success, you are rewriting the pattern. Small choices, enormous consequences. The final truth, you are not your shadow, but you cannot become who you are meant to be while the shadow runs unchecked. Carl Jung believed that the goal of human life is not happiness, it is wholeness. And wholeness requires facing every part of yourself, especially the parts that have been working against you in the dark. The part of you that sabotages everything good in your life is not your enemy. It is the most frightened part of you, the youngest part, the part that learned too early that good things come with a price. Your job is not to destroy it. Your job is to go back for it, to tell it, with every brave choice you make, that it is finally safe to let good things stay. If this video resonated with you, it is probably because somewhere inside you recognize the pattern. You have seen the shadow work. You have watched yourself stop at the edge of something real. Don't ignore what you just recognized. That recognition is the beginning of the only change that actually lasts. If you want more videos on Carl Jung, shadow work, the unconscious mind, self-sabotage, and the hidden psychological forces that shape your life, subscribe now, because understanding why you do what you do is the first step toward finally doing something different.